everybody. I'm going to ask our esteemed panelists to kind of come out and join us right now. So, Jim, Mike, Ruth, Dave, can you come aboard?
Jim, Ruth.
I don't think it matters.
Doesn't really matter, does it?
Great. So the topic of our particular conversation this morning is going to be all around data. And obviously, you can't talk about this category without talking about the voluminous amounts of data that are being generated, plus the insights that are being derived from it. So before we launch into that, I'd like to ask each of the panelists to just introduce themselves, speak for a moment about the company that they represent and kind of the products and services they're involved with. So who wants to start off? Okay.
Hi everybody, Jim Mollica, Vice President of Digital Marketing for Under Armour. I handle everything from our connected fitness products and our apps that you may see out there, like MyFitnessPal, Endomondo, Under Armour Record, MapMyFitness, to e-commerce, to our brand.
Ruth.
So hello, I'm Ruth Thomson. Happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm from Cambridge Consultants. We're a product development and technology innovation company with over 500 engineers, designers and scientists working to develop technologies for our clients. So everything from front-end concept generation through prototyping through to detailed design, transfer into manufacture. So I head up our consumer business globally, which includes all the work we do in sports and fitness. It includes a lot of connected system development.
Hi everybody, I'm Dave Wright. I'm the CEO and founder of MyZone. We're actually relatively new into this space of the consumer electronic world, so this is only my second show here. We've come from the 25 years in the corporate fitness, and about 5 years ago we launched a wearable device that focuses on effort rather than fitness when people work out.
Hey y'all, my name is Mike Stashak. I lead the commercial side for Wahoo Fitness. In case you guys don't know, Wahoo Fitness we make hardware and software that connects your workout to smartphones, whether that's running, riding, going to the gym, group fitness. We've got solutions across all those categories. And it's just been really interesting being on this panel for the last couple of years to see how this industry has exploded. So I'm glad to be back.
Great. So let's jump off of that one and just start with a ground setting kind of question. Data. What kind of data are we talking about this category? Can someone give me types of data, and where have you seen that kind of evolve from even a couple of years ago to kind of what your products and apps are doing today?
I mean,
Go ahead.
I was on there earlier, I listened to Bill from Under Armour this morning, and 5 years ago, data was the insight. The fact that you could get data via a low-cost device, and it was data that you couldn't get before, and it didn't matter if that data was good data or bad data, just the fact that you could get that data, that was the insight. Today, data is commoditized, right? We have too much data. And really, the insight is that we need to solve, which what we're probably going to try to solve in the next couple of years, and then Under Armour's doing a great job of it, is, okay, I've got the data, what do I need to do next? So I did a workout today, I did something today, well, what do I need to do tomorrow? So really, the data today is just the ante. We've got data, every type of data can be measured, every piece of data we're already collecting. It's a matter of what do you do with it next?
Yeah, I'll just add to that. I think, look, data's an ingredient. And I think, just like big data and how it's going to transform every business, people run to collect a whole lot, and they were struggling with processing it, analyzing it to find meaningful insights, and then making it actionable. And I think it's no different with consumers, people, in your individual life. Great, I took 10,000 steps yesterday. Is that good? Is that good for somebody my age? What else should I be doing? How does that connect into the rest of my sort of health and fitness picture? And so one of the things that we're really focused on is the evolution of taking not just more data that's coming off there, so connecting food from our MyFitnessPal app, which has the largest database of consumed calories in the history of mankind, to activity that's coming off of our trackers and things like the health box, your weight, how you feel, and your workouts, and connecting all of this in sort of a holistic view, and then coming back and telling you that, what are the predictive elements to say that how could you be even better and just feel better? And I think that, doing that in a simple, easy manner that people can consume then becomes sort of life-altering, right? You're adding a tremendous amount of value back to them without just regurgitating sort of dumb data without context.
I think the big question is in regards to credibility of the data. I think that's there's data for data's sake, and it's also got to be whether it's fit for purpose. A tape measure is a great device to collect data if you want to measure, the width of a waist, but it's irrelevant if you want to actually measure how much you weigh. So I mean, bringing it back to the commercial fitness world, there's always been data collected in regards to, say, swipes of membership cards. So yes, and and that was linked with health insurance. Swipe of a membership card, does that change the results of whether people are getting results? And we were finding in New York with a lot of the big operators there is that people would swipe their card for them and for their friend and for their other buddy at work because it was linked to health insurance. Or they were swiping their card and going and sitting in the sauna. So the big question is in regards to the credibility of the data and not just data for data's sake, I think.
And what we're really talking about is the difference between data and information, isn't it?
Yep.
There's a huge amount that you can capture, and whether it's something you're actually measuring directly, whether it's about activity, or maybe how someone's moving their arm, or whether you're talking about something that you can infer and calculate, whether it's calories or maybe sporting technique, or whether it's longitudinal information that you're trying to capture. It's that difference between data and information. It's easier and easier nowadays to capture information, and I think we're getting a lot smarter at how we turn that into useful information.
So Dave, you mentioned data credibility. A couple of you have devices that are chest strap kind of monitors. When does the conversation in the space evolve to data accuracy, and when do people actually try to legitimize and market and talk about the accuracy of their devices? Because as you said, data is everywhere, it's commoditized, sensors are everywhere, but how do you know if you're buying a product in this day and age, if you're getting a good one or a bad one from an accuracy perspective?
I think the accuracy, it comes down to motivation. All wearable devices, it's about that motivation. Now, our main view is sustained adherence to exercise. So it's not flog you a device, 6 months later, flog you another device, 6 months later. Our business model is to increase the long-term adherence to exercise, and that centres around motivation. And I think if you are in a competition next to someone that is based on how many times they jiggle their hand, and I'm like, hey, I just busted my gut doing a CrossFit or session, but you are winning the competitions because you're on a bus ride into work for an hour, which it happens. It loses the motivation, and that's why I think data accuracy is important, but also now, and it depends on what you're testing and the actual type of activity, and I think say for example in a CrossFit environment is that the high intensity interval training, which is pretty popular now, and the P90X and Insanities, is that if there is a lag, you're pushing someone to the max. And if there is a lag in that data, and saying, right, Mike, you're only at 70%, come on, there's another 30%. But because there's a lag of 10, 20 seconds, I could hurt him. And therefore we've got that question of that credibility. So it sort of like comes back to whether it's fit for purpose. I think that's a big thing.
So is the purpose that you're doing with it? Because if you're just trying to measure, if you're just trying to maybe track your activity over time and look to see whether you're getting better, you're really talking about relative differences.
And we're not serving food until 12:30.
And people really don't care about the absolute measure of exactly how many steps it was. It's just I did more yesterday than I did today, and therefore I should get out on the road. versus if you're trying to look at, sporting technique and maybe how you're swinging a baseball bat.
Okay,
If you're just going to get the same number each time and you know that you're doing something different, you're going to get frustrated and you're going to stop using that product. Right? It's what's fit for purpose.
Yeah, I would say, we agree with all of that. I would say, look, accuracy is important, but it's sort of a sliding scale based upon the context, right? For many people that we're just encouraging to move more, right, to be healthier, to stay more active, it's about sort of your directional trend. And the accuracy maybe is not as important to your, as it is to a professional athlete, right? So, we have some of the world's best athletes that are going to be at our booth, and the accuracy for Michael Phelps is incredibly important. The accuracy for somebody that's starting a New Year's resolution that has not worked out, I think it's again, the directional trend is far more important.
No, I mean, the only thing I'd add to that is the market's spoken, right? So you see incredible valuations of new companies that were not here 5 years ago, I won't name names, and they are less accurate. I mean, they're plus or minus 20%, they're plus or minus 10%, and they have very successful products. And it really comes down to the fit for purpose on that. So the market has told us where it needs to be accurate and where it doesn't need to be accurate.
So every year I come and I keep waiting to have a discussion around some data breach in this class of product or this kind of industry. In other Internet of Things categories like the connected home or the connected car, you've already seen the 60 Minutes expose on the car that got crashed, halted, or taken over. And in the home, obviously, you've seen all kinds of ridiculous use cases of cameras doing stuff to babies and talking to them and all that. But let's talk about trackers and fitness monitors and devices of that category. What's the worst thing that can happen from a data breach? Why aren't we seeing or reading or talking about this? Or do you think this is just a category that hackers just aren't that interested in?
Depends on the level of the sport. I think at the consumer level, what is the threat level? What would someone actually gain by hacking into that? That's one level. Whereas if you think more at the professional sports level, where you're capturing data there, actually thinking about the betting sector, there could actually be quite a financial benefit to be able to hack into that. So I think you need to think about the level of the sports and therefore the threat level.
I think insurance claims is going to be interesting. I think there's going to be as the more devices that people wear, the more data that is possible there to be hacked for the purpose of, hey, this person here is claiming that they weren't fit enough to walk, so let's interrogate that and then exploit that, and I think that's where it might be. And then the question is, does the governments or the policymakers say, hey, yeah, do you know what? Let's just open that up, legally and make it a legislative action. And that will be interesting, if insurance and stuff like that. Once again, going back to swipes of membership cards, is that health insurance companies used to link it to swipes of membership cards, and then they've gone, hang on a minute, we're not moving the needle on the claims because the data was not accurate or relevant. Yes, it did tell you how many times you went to a thing, so, part of the problem, but, I think when you start dealing in money, I think that's when that data breach will be interesting, I would say.
Okay. Let's talk about data visualization for a second. People hear that term. What does that mean to each of you? What are examples of it done well? What are examples of it done poorly?
See the session, but they didn't pay for it.
To me, I'll take that one. I mean, it goes back to what I said before, is what do you need to do next, right? And that's where we're going to. And the ability for me to start a fitness journey, have some goals, do something today, and then have a device tell me what I need to do tomorrow. I mean, that's the ultimate, that's what everyone here is trying to get to, because that's really what's going to help people stay on track, achieve their goals, et cetera. I think that data visualization piece is, there's great, trying to come up, what you see on Facebook of great people making charts. You know, people have been making charts for 50 years, and all of a sudden making charts is popular. I think no one's cracked that nut in terms of how to take something that, you know, some complex set of inputs, whether it's 5 inputs, 1 input, or 10 inputs, marry that together and turn that into a prescriptive plan. No one's cracked that nut yet.
Got it. Hold on for a second. Hey guys, we're getting some.
A lunch order.
Yeah.
A lunch order,
interference.
yeah,
So I don't know if
exactly,
that's Julie's mic. That's.
I'll have a
hot.
chicken sandwich.
Yeah.
If
So
that's-
maybe we could turn that down. It's coming from up here.
From
Yeah, right? But those passes are pre-registered.
Hey, Julie?
and so forth, and so all of the C-level.
We can hear you, Julie.
the
Yeah.
passes are pre-registered. For anyone else that didn't hear that.
Yeah. If we could just.
I want-
No one knows where they are, and they're like, everyone's in meetings all day.
Hold on. Sorry guys.
Yeah.
It's a little distracting.
They probably can't hear it because this is.
I think probably the front row can hear it. There's
Oh, is
not
it? Oh,
a,
you can. Yeah,
There's
yeah.
not a ghost panelist up here.
Oh, okay, yeah,
That's
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
talking about a parallel conversation.
Keep talking. Keep talking. In regards to that.
Okay.
Is it, yeah.
I turned it off.
In regards to data, I mean, look, what we did with MyZone is we just tried to keep it as simple as possible. We just used 5 simple colours, grey, blue, green, yellow, red, based on 10% intensity zones, so that therefore it doesn't matter if you're a 4-year-old or you're an Olympic athlete, you know, are you in the green zone, blue zone, yellow zone, red zone? And so therefore, we've tried to simplify it, you know, just to, because the heart rate monitor's been around for 40 years, you know, Polar were the first ones to do that, you know, but 142 beats, what does that mean? What does that mean? You know, have you had a metabolic test? Do you know your lactate inflection point? You know, where should you know, your AB, AT be? You know, and the interesting thing in the space is when people look at, say, for example, your max heart rate, people go, oh, I've been training for years, I've got a high max heart rate. Where it's just like, no. Your fitness is determined by your resting and how quickly you recover after exercise. And so an absolute number is sort of like, in a way, irrelevant. So we just focus on effort and a percentage. That's why we sort of like decided to call it MyZone, not yours, because the 5 of us could go for a run around the CES, same pace, same distance, roughly same age or thereabouts, physiologically impossible for us to have the same workout, you know. But if we said, let's go for a run, 7%, 77% like this, we've all, you know, basically identified, well, what we've done is sort of like effort over time rather than, you know, pace and distance over time. That's in regards to the meaningful, simple.
Yeah, I'd say, look, I think like many products with consumer interface, simplicity and beauty, right? And especially when it comes to things like health and fitness, because there's such a, you know, you find consumers or people in general have no shortage of desire to improve themselves, but the chasm of will to get there is massive, right? And so the easier that you can do that, to Mike's point earlier, the more enjoyable the experience is, the more that you can make it social, the more that you can simplify data, simplify the interface. I think the easier it is for people to develop, you know, these continual habits, right, that will lead them to a healthier lifestyle. You know, that was the fundamental backdrop for our design of Under Armour Record, where there's a lot of data that's flowing through there, right? You know, all of this activity data that's coming through, all of this health and fitness and nutrition and sleep data that's coming through, it could overwhelm you. But the goal was to present it in the most simple, easy, and intuitive interface you possibly could have to keep people there and engaged.
Simple is important, but it also depends on the context of who, when, and where. So I think, you know, maybe you think about systems where maybe the consumer's looking at some information, but maybe also a sports scientist or a coach. What they want to see and how they want to have it visualized is going to be different depending on the context of who. Also, if you just take a pure consumer example, what they want to see maybe if they're out exercising is going to be different to what they want to see maybe if they're down in the evening kind of wanting to maybe have a kind of a richer data set to be able to compare longitudinal information. So I think you really need to think about context.
Yeah, or even what exercise they're engaged
Yeah.
in. Like a gym workout is a vastly different visual display than if you're going for a run and, you know, or a ride and you're tracking that.
Record and other aggregation of data methods out there. What's the state of the state out there today? You know, do you guys, you know, are you distributing, making your data available that you're collecting through your devices and presenting through your apps to other third parties? You know, how do you see that current state?
Open is the ante right now for the industry, and I keep on going back to the market. I mean, you saw some announcements on Monday from a relatively closed ecosystem, and their stock got hammered. And so the way that I look at it, if you're not being able to take data from other places, if you're not willing to push data to any other places, right, the market's going to speak. And people want that, right? It's they own the data. If you're, the companies don't own the data. So to me, it's a very simple answer.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
And it's also about the ecosystem, though, as well. I think it's also, and you know, who's going to win the ecosystem? It's like when you look at who's at the top of the food chain, and you know, arguably it's Apple, Google, Samsung, you know, because they're the ones that get all the data. You know, Google can tell me when I need to leave for an appointment, you know, because of all that data, and so it depends on what type of the data and the data. You've got to be open. I think that's, you know, I think that's really clear. You know, if you don't, you've got to. But the funny thing is you've got to be open. So you want, you've got, everyone's trying to create their own ecosystem. You know, that's what we've done with MyZone for the operators and the likes. But you've got to be strong enough and confident enough in your own ecosystem that you can sort of like say, yeah, go anywhere, but we want you to stay in ours. Because if you stay in our ecosystem, we can sell you more T-shirts and shoes.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing.
And so the whole argument, though, for there, it's totally agree with you, but I think that's why it's so important to provide this extreme value back to the consumer. Yeah. Because you're not going to keep them there very long, right? Especially in health and fitness, because people, you know, on this, most people are on this sort of wave of levels of activity and levels of tracking and levels of focus on their health and fitness. And I think, you know, if you can continually provide that to them and make things easy, like with an open platform, so it doesn't have this, oh my God, if I switch, I start back at square one. I think those things are incredibly important.
So I think people have posited that HealthKit and Google Fit and Samsung, like these guys would be the hubs and the aggregators of the data, but just each of you have an app. Do most of your users engage with your data, your insights and all that through your app, or where else do you tend to see them, right? I want to push this a little bit more for a second, because I think everyone espouses open, but and it's technically feasible, but I don't think users actually do that right now.
It's technically feasible, but it's not user-friendly, right? It's not seamless, it's not frictionless. And I think that's where you're running into a lot of the big companies that are being, I hate to say this, but they're being dominated by their legal department, right? So I know that Apple has got some huge challenges when it comes to HealthKit about the ability to check in and check out data and take data from different disparate sources of HealthKit and then marry it together. So as a third-party app, I can't necessarily get everything I want out of HealthKit and then use that in a very user-friendly way because of some legal challenges that Apple has, right? And some of the things that I sign on when I choose to get data from HealthKit. So I think that, you know, one, you got to make it frictionless. You got to make it easy, and it's not frictionless and easy with Apple HealthKit and Google yet, but it will be. Two, you got to figure out all the privacy concerns, which will be figured out. And then three, you still have to have, you know, all of the devices out there talking copying, you know, a common language.
How about at Under Armour, with all the franchises that you guys have, how open and flowing is the data already amongst your own properties, let alone third parties?
Well, you know, across our apps, we're sharing data that's coming in and out. Again, like, you know, just as an illustration, MyFitnessPal feeds into Under Armour Record, and you can choose the level of granularity that you want, right? You can have very simple nutritional tracking by saying, you know, I light, medium, or heavy, or you can go into super detail within that, right? So the data is flowing throughout our apps and our ecosystem. I think, again, it's not user-friendly to push a lot of that stuff going out into other places, but you can do it. I think from our perspective, I think that the way that we look at it is that the more that we can be that centralized hub, and more importantly, providing the value back to the consumer, and it is trusted and secure. I mean, my big question with Google is, Okay, they can collect data in there, but ultimately when it comes to health and fitness, are they going to be the ones the consumers are going to vote and say, yeah, I feel most secure with them? I think that remains to be seen.
I would add one thing to this. I mean, personally, from my perspective, I would love to see better adoption of Google, their aggregation services in Apple Health Kit, because to me, they provide a ton of value. One, they take disparate sources and they put them in this common format. And two, there is some data integrity piece, because in order to push data into there, they can say, speed from this device equals speed from this device, or heart rate from this device. And there is a ton of value that they're adding to the consumer. It's just, how do we get it to a point where it's super easy to use, super frictionless, and the consumer understands it?
Last question. What are we going to talk about with regard to data for the balance of this year? What themes, what trends, what discussion points around data in this category do you see emerging?
2-word answers.
Actionable insights.
That and systems.
What to do next?
Yeah, 2 words. Can't clear my throat in 2 words. I think it'll. I can't do it. I can't do it. It will depend on what devices that are out here on the show that will collect the credible data that will result in being able to add value and training off the back end of that.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
panelists.
Yep.
Please, round of applause for our panelists. We're going to bring out the next group.